If you create a course in an e-learning authoring tool like Articulate Storyline, does that make you an instructional designer? Well, a lot of people seem to think so. Hey, it's Jeff with ELearningCareer.com. So I received a question the other day from one of my viewers, and they were asking, and it's a very good question, they were asking about how to get started in instructional design. And I responded with some questions of my own. For example, I was asking, what kind of instructional design do you want to do? And I was also asking about their familiarity with adult learning and instructional design principles and things like that. And they told me that their understanding of instructional design was that the most important thing was the e-learning authoring tool that you used, and that the principles and things were secondary and maybe not as important. And that response actually didn't surprise me, because when I've been out on the internet looking on things like LinkedIn and Reddit and other forums, I actually see that a lot, where people equate instructional design with e-learning development. They think that's what an instructional designer does. Now, of course, that very well may be something you do as an instructional designer, but I wanted to talk about the differences between what I would call e-learning development and the full array of what instructional design is. I want to divide this into 3 compartments, if you will. I'm going to start with e-learning developer. Then I want to talk about what I would call an e-learning designer. And then finally, I'll talk about overall instructional designer and talk about some of the differences. A few years ago, I worked on a project where I was the e-learning developer. The topic was about labor unions. We didn't have any subject matter experts within our organization, so we actually hired a consultant. And that consultant did all of the instructional design work on this particular project. She developed the content, she created the outline, the learning objectives, the storyboard, and then she gave that to me, and then I built it in Adobe Captivate for that particular project. And that is what I think my viewer is looking to do. And I think that's what a lot of people are looking to do. They're not necessarily interested in doing all of the upfront stuff, the analysis, and all of the things that you do as part of the instructional design process. They really are just excited about getting into the software and building things from that. And by the way, I totally get it. I gotta be honest, that was actually really nice on that project, where I didn't have to worry about all that, where it was just all given to me and I just got to play in the software, because I still got to do some creative stuff. Even though the outline and everything was done, but I still got to go in and work on the graphics and build the interactivity. So I definitely see the appeal. And if that's what you're interested in, then I would look at, when you're looking at the job descriptions, that's what you want to really look for, is that more of an e-learning developer or e-learning builder, where you are given the content and the storyboard, and then you're just going into the software and creating it. And I could see where I've got to think that there are corporate jobs out there, where companies, that's what they want. They want someone to build something that came from an instructional designer. I think that could also be a really great opportunity for freelance or contract work, right? So that's e-learning development. Now let's move up to the next level. And when I say level, I'm not saying any of these are better than any of the others. It really just depends on you and what you want to do. So whichever one of these appeals to you, that's going to be the best one. Next, we have what I'm going to call e-learning designer. So this would be a role where you are doing instructional design work, but you are specialized in e-learning. You very much are doing all of the upfront stuff, the afterward stuff, all of the instructional design work, you're doing it, but you're focused on e-learning. As an example, I had a project where I had to develop an e-learning course about active shooters. So in that case, I worked with the director of security. He was the subject matter expert. I worked with him along with some other folks on his team. So I interviewed them. I gathered the content. I determined what the learning objectives were, what I wanted people to be able to do as a result of the training. And then I built it in Articulate Storyline. And then I also loaded it onto the learning management system. I kept track of it, ran reports. So I did all of the instructional design along with the development and creation of this. And for me, like, that's my preference, because as much as I like the development part, which it really is, like, my favorite part is the development, but I like driving it. Like, I like to be the one who really does the whole thing. So if that's what you like to do, you say, oh yeah, I want to do all of it. I want to do the analysis, and I want to do the outline and the storyboard and then build it. But I only want to do instructional design for e-learning, then that's what you want to look for. When you're looking at job roles, you want to look for those kind of more e-learning design type roles. And again, the titles may be different, but when you look in the description, you want to look for roles where you are doing both. You're doing the design, the instructional design, and you're doing the e-learning. And finally, let's talk about instructional designer. So when I talk about an instructional designer, I'm not just talking about e-learning. For example, in my current role, I am a senior instructional designer. Do I build e-learning courses? Sometimes. Do I design e-learning courses? Sometimes. To be honest, in my current role, most of the projects that I am working on, I am not working with e-learning authoring tools. Now, don't get me wrong. I love working in Storyline. I love working in Captivate, in iSpring. I love working in all those tools. But as an instructional designer who's responsible for doing it all, e-learning may or may not be the right solution for my audience. To be honest, most of my projects currently are virtual instructor-led courses. So I'm actually doing most of my work in PowerPoint, in Microsoft Word to build job aids. And I'm working with the trainers and the facilitators on coming up with activities. So that's a lot of what I'm doing. And the reason is because when we do the needs analysis on a lot of these courses, we determine, oh, this audience really needs that instructor-led course. They need to be able to interact with an instructor live, and they're going to get more out of it than the self-paced e-learning. Now, I might have some e-learning courses as sometimes I build them as prerequisites. And then also sometimes we have existing courses that I might go into. Maybe I'll go into Storyline and make some updates. But most of my time actually currently, and that's the great thing though about instructional design, is it changes all the time. That's where I am right now. Right now, I'm doing a lot of these virtual instructor-led courses. I may, in the future, I might do some more e-learning, but I'll tell you this, another project type that I'm doing a lot of right now are mobile learning. And I'm not doing it in Articulate Rise. We have an app, and we build our mobile courses in HTML5. So I'm using Visual Studio Pro to create mobile learning. So that's why when people ask me questions about being an instructional designer, I always back it up. And I ask them what types of things do they like to work on, because it is not just e-learning. I know that is something that gets a lot of attention. I know that's what people like to talk about, and I get it. They're fun to work in. They're really cool software tools. But you should know that if you do get an instructional design job, you may or may not be working in the e-learning authoring tools. It may depend on the project. So if you think to yourself, I don't want to work on instructor-led training, I'm not interested in that, I just want to work in these e-learning tools. Hey, that is absolutely fine. Like that, I totally understand that. I just say, make sure you're paying attention to the job descriptions and make sure that is what that particular job is looking for. Or if you're going to go freelance, make sure those are the types of, make that clear that those are the types of jobs that you are accepting. All right, so I hope this has helped you figure out where you want to be, whether you want to focus on e-learning development, e-learning design, or if you want to take the whole thing on and be an instructional designer or learning experience designer. If you found this helpful, give me a like. Make sure to subscribe if you'd like to see more content. I'd also love to hear from you in the comments if you have any questions. And by the way, I will also in the description provide some links to some articles with further information about these different roles. So once again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.